All right, welcome to the Rich Cholenza Show. WTF are you talking about? I'm sitting next to the love of my life.
RIA?
Loeks.
Yes.
You forgot to put your last name.
Oh, for goodness sake.
All right, this is our first legitimate podcast. We've done others before, but we've had issues with the audio.
Correct. Quit hitting your hands on the table.
That's exactly correct. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So, I'm telling her all these things to prepare herself, and then I'm not prepared. All right, so I'm going to do something different I've never done before on a podcast.
Okay.
I'm going to hit you with some subjects
Right.
that we didn't even discuss.
No, I have no idea what you're going to ask me or
Right.
talk about.
Perfect. So let's get into this real quick. So I
Okay.
just typed these up real quick. I was going to do them independently or maybe do them with someone else, but I thought I would definitely start with you if that's
All right.
cool.
That's fine.
All righty, here are the subjects. Are you ready?
Are you going to read all of them at once?
Well, there's
or
only
you
like
start-
five
I know.
real
Why
quick.
don't you just do one at a time?
Because I want you to pick the one.
Oh, you want me to pick?
Yeah, I want you to pick one.
Why don't you just pick one?
Because I don't know which one you want to do.
Well, I mean,
and I'm
pick
not
the
sure. I want to make sure you want to do the one I'm picking.
But then I have to think.
Yeah, I know. That's why I like it. It's kind of off the cuff.
Well, no, I mean, I'd rather you just pick one and then I don't have to think. To choose from.
Okay, I'm going to pick one.
You know what
I
I'm
got
saying?
you. We're getting nuts.
Yeah, okay.
You're a piece of shit. Okay.
You know?
So I'm going to do this one. This one
Okay.
just came to me.
All right.
And the subject would have been,
All right.
do you actually live in the place where you belong?
Okay.
It's pretty interesting, right? So it's funny, we were just discussing this upstairs, is
Right.
the reason I chose this is because I think a lot of people end up being where they don't want to be or are stuck in a place where they truly don't feel like themselves.
Are
if
you
that
talking
makes
about
sense.
physically or mentally?
Physically.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying and the other thing is, so you being in, let's put it this way, why I picked this subject for you?
Yeah.
You're a Navy brat.
Yes.
Okay. You've lived in numerous places
I
all
have.
over North America.
Correct.
You are a perfect person to go through this subject with.
Right.
I've lived in Chicago,
Yeah.
in the suburbs of Chicago, San Diego, Florida.
Right.
And we have both spent numerous amounts of times all throughout North America.
Yes.
So even Canada, hypothetically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, both of us. Yeah.
I've spent probably a half a year of my life there at this point. Same with New York. I've spent probably, Boston, all these places. We didn't necessarily live there,
Right.
but we have spent it's almost like we live there.
Well, I think we spent a lot of time there. I wouldn't say half your life in Canada, but yeah, I know.
No, a half a year. Did I say half?
Oh, yeah. I
thought I said half. Well, I'm sorry. I meant about a half a year. If
Yeah,
you included all the days.
No, that is true. Yeah, for travel, correct.
Right. So, and I've even gone to Canada for a month at a time.
Right.
Same with New York. I've spent like a month in Manhattan. So again, I'm not saying I live there, but I really got a grasp
Yes.
on what it is to live that lifestyle, I guess I should say.
Correct.
And you have also traveled.
Abroad, yeah.
Yes. So she's been to
Europe, Norway, Philippines.
Right.
Hawaii from time to time, Mexico. Yeah, correct.
Right. So.
And Canada.
Right. So my point, and I'm going to get into this with you because you, I think, would really know this more than anyone to a certain degree because you've lived in all different places, even in the same state. So you've lived in Florida. She's lived in Jacksonville, and you've lived in Orlando. But you've traveled throughout Florida.
Oh, constantly.
Constantly. So you kind of know where you're comfortable and not, right?
Right.
And there are a lot of people out there, and I go through this with a lot of my friends in the Midwest, Chicago, who
Are stuck in the same place.
correct. They for numerous amounts of years.
I have friends like that too, yeah.
Right. And I can only say one thing. What I think happens with the programming mechanism of my brain thing, again, is my grandparents were all from Italy, and then my other grandparent is from Chicago. And then when I wanted to leave at 18 years old to move out of Chicago, they were all very upset with me. But what was quite interesting is I spent a lot of time in the city and the suburbs, lived in both. I knew that wasn't for me, both of those situations. Do you hear that little background? That's our
It's
little
Duncan.
doggy. That's our dog. So I knew, even though I love Chicago, I'm still there a lot. I love a city atmosphere. I love the fashion aspect, the food, the culture, the lifestyle. I loved it all, but I knew that's where I didn't want to live.
Right.
And I thought it was the weather had a big part to do with that. But even, say, hypothetically, I was there in the summer, I still felt like it wasn't my place. So I moved to Florida, and then, like I said, I've lived in San Diego. Both of those areas, I feel so much better physically, mentally. I just know that's where I belong. Right? In your case, let's throw this on you. Now, you living in all different places, have you ever been through that where you're like, I I should be in San Francisco, or now that I live in Orlando, I love it because of Disney. What's your...
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, it's interesting because, I mean, we had to move every 3 years. So you would think that I want to be stable, and I do. I want to be stable in one place, but I'm lucky that with travel, I get to go to a lot of different places. And I think that, let me think about this, because I do think and feel that I am in the right place where I'm living now, for now. And maybe, is this permanent? We talk about this all the time. I don't know, but I do like where I live now because I think it suits what I like to do. There's good, for me, I think that there's good eating here.
Orlando.
Yeah, Orlando. Right.
Well, you've kind of come into time where in the last probably 5 to 10 years, Orlando has changed unbelievably.
Oh, yeah, because I used to travel here 10 years ago.
Right,
so I do know. Right. Yeah, I've seen it change.
But you came from Jacksonville, so it's a totally different environment.
Well, of course, yeah.
Action.
Oh, yeah, because Jacksonville is very southern, where I think Orlando, you still get a lot of tourists here, so it still brings a more international flair. I find good places to eat. I like, obviously, the parks. We have annual passes to Disney. We have annual passes to Universal. I enjoy that. We don't go to the beach a lot because you don't like the beach. But if we were...
You could go.
Right, no, I know, and I have. But
and we are central.
We're
if you don't know anything about Orlando,
you're right in the middle.
You're right in the middle. You could go to any beach.
Right, and
truthfully.
and if we want to drive to Fort Lauderdale or Miami, I do not want to live in Fort Lauderdale or Miami. It is not for me. I basically... In another job, I was there 3 weeks out of the month. So I did basically live there, and I don't like the traffic. It's not my lifestyle, but I like it for visiting. So that's one thing.
Sure.
But it's close enough for us, right?
Right.
And, if we want to vacation, I think that Orlando International Airport is easy breezy to get in and out of, and the ports are great for cruising.
Right.
Which I've done. I did with my girlfriends last October, and my parents do it out of Cape Canaveral. They've done it out of Fort Lauderdale, and they've done it out of Tampa and Jacksonville. So, I mean, there's so many ports. So, to think now, is this the right place where I'm living now for me? Yeah, at 50, I think it is good, right?
It may have taken you a while to figure that out.
Because
you used to be a West Coast girl. Like, you love San Fran.
But I mean, we talked about that. I said, if I remember with the Powerball, that was, $750 million, right? I said, if I won it, I mean, I do have like 4 places where I would love to just have a home throughout the United States.
Sure.
And San Francisco is one of them.
Right.
Probably Portland, because I do like Portland, because I have a lot of friends there.
That's where you went to college.
I went to college in Eugene, so,
She's a duck.
I'm a duck. I would love to have a really nice place here, and maybe, I don't know. I mean, New York's not for me, but, who knows, right? So, somewhere up in the Northeast, I think that'd be fun, a vacation home. But to live... Florida. Right now. I do. I love the weather.
Right.
Right? I mean, even the, humidity, I don't mind.
Right.
And I'm a native Floridian.
Right.
So we didn't even talk about that. Yeah, so it's home for me.
Sure.
Jacksonville's where I was born, but I am one of the few native Floridians.
And you're a Pacific Islander.
Right. So I don't mind the heat.
No, I'm kidding.
Right, so I don't mind the heat. But, long-winded, I think it is the right place for me. I mean, and financially, too, I think it suits
Yeah, taxes and everything. There's benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Florida's changed.
Florida has changed. So, I think it's a good place for me, for us. So
I also think a lot of times when people, I can only express when I lived in Chicago, is I think where people also have to look at if they're going to move somewhere, live somewhere, they're surrounding it. Where can they kind of escape to?
Right.
And I'll just use Chicago for an example, the Midwest. So, the heartland of America, is that what they call it? Whatever.
Yeah.
And wonderful people, incredible food, Chicago. There's a lot of benefits to Chicago, and there's a lot of disbenefits, obviously. The one thing that aggravated me the most about Chicago is to escape, you legitimately had to go to Florida or you had to go to California, in my eyes. I mean, to be in warmer climates, get clearer skies, because if you look at the surrounding area, and nothing against, I'm not going to sit there and start dissing Indiana, Wisconsin.
No.
I'm not going to say, but those, all like for us, when we're younger, they'd be like, let's go to Wisconsin Dells, which is actually almost colder except in the summer than it is there.
But
where do you go?
Yeah, but
because I'm looking for warmth, I'm saying.
Right.
So we were always heading to Florida or California. But back to, do you actually live where you belong? I think a lot of people don't necessarily acknowledge that they're not where they want to be a lot of times, and there's always something limiting them or stopping them from going to where they want to go.
Well, I think people are afraid, and it's scary for them. I mean, there are even people who have never, when we lived in San Francisco, my ex-husband and I, we found people that never left their neighborhood. And I know New Yorkers are like
my
that,
buddies.
Right, your buddies in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I think that you have to overcome that fear by exploring. And I guess, on the flip side of being a Navy brat, I think it was good because I don't have a fear of getting lost. I mean, we've talked about that. I can find my way. I don't get nervous if I get lost when I'm traveling or driving. I like to eat by myself.
Right.
I'm fine with that. I don't mind. I love exploring areas that I'm around, and I think both of us have had the ability to travel to a lot of great, unique places. But I think when it comes to moving and living, I think people get afraid because they're afraid of trying something new. But I'll tell a quick story. So my best friend Lisa, she thought that when she wanted to go to college outside of Portland, she thought she wanted to go to Minnesota. So she packed it up, moved to Minnesota, drove across, halfway across the country, and hated it.
Right.
But I think, and then she ended up at U of O. That's,
right.
And I think that, in a way, good for her to try it.
Sure.
And a lot of people do have to try that. I think school's a little different, but, sometimes jobs give you the opportunity to try to live somewhere different. And that's what helped me. But I think,
you got to have that gypsy gene, I call it too.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Right? A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right.
Yeah,
there's a gypsy component to me.
Yeah.
My buddy always says, you've been everywhere and I've been nowhere.
Right.
But I think this last few years, because I ended up traveling to almost all 50 states except Hawaii and I don't know, that other one.
Was it South Dakota or North Dakota?
No, I hit South Dakota. Who cares?
Montana. It doesn't matter.
Montana.
No, you did go to Montana.
I did go to Montana.
I can't remember.
One of them,
anyway,
it's irrelevant, and I hit every major city, I think, or Providence in
Yeah.
Canada. But what was interesting, even at my age at 50, just experiencing all these different places I've already been to, actually a lot of them numerous times, but then going to places I've never been at, you really start to realize who you are and where you want to go home to, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Because most people, I don't even think... I think what happens to a lot of people is regarding not finding always where they belong to a certain degree is because they kind of live in the moment, but there's always something paralyzing them, I call it. So say I'm younger, like a lot of my friends in Chicago, so you meet, say you're in high school, and then you go to college. Usually you're going to go local or in state to save money, right? Then the next thing you know, you find somebody. They don't want to move.
Yeah,
so now you get married.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
we can't leave now
Right.
because we're married and our
Then you
parents
got
will
the
get
kids.
pissed. Then you have one child, two children.
Right.
We can't leave because they're... And then after that, you have grandchildren, or then you're locked into a job, and I get all those things. I get it.
Right.
But if you're not happy,
Right.
and I know a lot of my friends aren't happy, and a lot of people, one of the reasons I'm having this discussion is because they wait too long. So,
Right.
I've been spending a lot of time in Boca, Pompano, Lauderdale since I was like 5 years old. And I remember one time, I was talking to some older people, and they were like 75, 80, and they said the one thing they regretted was waiting so long to get to Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Of course.
Right. Or just
even
moving in
traveling,
and travel and enjoying their life because they kind of, I think they were Canadians, these.
Right.
And then they waited till they were 7. Now, physically, they can't,
No, you can't
do what they want to do,
Right.
even though they're there. And I think they've had a lot of people end up having health issues too.
Sure.
Now you can't leave your doctors. So if you're younger in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, seriously.
Yeah, no, I tell people.
My mother's like that.
Right.
And here's the thing, too. If you ever plan on moving or, again, trying to find where you belong, be open-minded and give it time to breathe. Because I've even jumped to conclusions. I've even moved to places and been like, this sucks after a month. And I really didn't. It sucks because I made it suck, right? I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, there's situations.
Yeah, there's certain situations. Yeah. But I'll just give an example. my mother, when she first came to Florida, and I understand Florida 25 years ago was a different place, especially Orlando, compared to what it is now.
Right.
But a lot of times when you move, you want to bring where you're from to where you're at. And it doesn't always work that way.
Right.
Now she wants to live in Florida, but back then when she did come to Florida, all she could do is find all the problems with Florida. Like, I don't like the churches necessarily. I don't like the people. Whatever, at that point in time, they're not like me. The food's different. This is different. They want to bring, and my father goes through that.
Well, yeah, because they want things the way they want things, and they're not willing to adapt.
Right, but they wanted to leave where they were at.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. People can't adapt to change. But, like... And one of my best friends, Jamie, who I got to meet here in Orlando, she moved to, she had an opportunity to move to San Francisco 2 years ago.
Right.
Right? And she asked me, we were coworkers, and then she asked me, she goes, tell me as a friend, do you think I should move? It's cross country, it's financially,
of course,
more expensive. And I told her, you're in your 20s. I said,
now is the time.
Right, now
no
is
boyfriend,
the time.
nothing, right?
Absolutely,
or whatever. Yeah, why wouldn't you take it?
You should go. I said, it breaks my heart because, this is a friend of mine that I would hang out, weekly and, do things with. And, it's, but you have to take advantage of that when you're young. And especially now with technology.
Absolutely.
It's so much easier, like maybe with your mom having issues back then to not be able to find the right place nowadays.
Oh, right. The whole lifestyle's different. Right. Everything's different.
So, I think there's so many things that work for you. From finding a place to live to finding friends even, and that's what.
Yeah,
so,
community.
But I think that, sometimes it does take a while for you to, as a person, to figure it out if you are in the right place. And maybe those people that are stuck where they are in Chicago or in who've never left Orlando, maybe that's right for them.
Exactly.
Right? So, but I think, maybe next time we can talk about how they do need to get out and explore in different ways. So, anyway.
Yeah. And I also think there's a lot of things people think they're a certain way when they're not. Like, say, Arizona, hypothetically, right? How
Arizona.
hot it is. I know you do, and I have a lot of family there. But a lot of people sometimes think about retiring in Arizona when it's a great place. Depending on the whole Phoenix, it's great. But really be prepared to deal with a lot of heat.
Sure.
Obviously.
That's of course.
Of course, but I don't think a lot of people vacation
right.
at a lot of places. It could be California, Phoenix, anywhere. But to live there is a whole different experience. Right.
Well, right. And I think, because, we've talked about that too, where, you may think that because you're going to on vacation to, like you just said, Phoenix.
Right.
Living there, 365 days of the year is different than a week of vacation.
Absolutely. It's like people want to go to Vegas.
Right.
Or anywhere. I'm like, listen, living in Vegas, because
Yeah.
we've spent so much time there, it's not what you think it is.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Not saying it's bad.
No.
It could be great for you. But it also could be...
Yeah, you just have to find the right... but I think that's why you have to be willing to give up a few things in order to try something. And know that it's okay if it doesn't work out, that you can go back or try something different.
Right. And I always say moving out of major cities, let's just take New York and San Francisco, which are very expensive. It's easy to move out, not easy to move back in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Chicago's kind of whatever. Yeah. California, too, depending on where you're at in California.
For sure, right.
But I just thought that was a subject that was kind of interesting.
Interesting.
Trying to, a lot of people I think out there want to make changes. They're just afraid to, and that's understandable. But stop being a prisoner in the moment. You experience things, too, and I just went through this with one of my cousins wanting to move back to Chicago. My dad wanted to as well. I said, just go spend January and February there.
Right.
A lot of people have been going to the summers to Chicago for weddings. They go for festivals. It's like anything else. Like, let's go to Italy during the great times, right? There's different, and a lot of people forget. And even my father, I said, physically, you don't even realize what it is to really go through 6 months. Go spend, if you're going to go somewhere, go spend the time there in the worst times, I said. So you think about moving to Chicago, just say you live in Florida, just say you're thinking about it. Go stay there January, February. Just, or you know what I mean? Like, just spend a couple months there in the winter. Not saying it's always like that, but if you'll get a really good idea, because I think a lot of people make a lot of mistakes thinking certain cities aren't what they are, I guess you could say.
Well, that's like Harrison.
Yeah.
My son, he was born in Portland, Oregon, And for the longest time, because his dad and I went to U of O, wanted to go back to school in Oregon.
Right.
Right? But he doesn't remember the rain. He doesn't remember the cold.
Right.
And, you and I kept telling him, go back. Not during spring break when the weather's nice and the roses are starting to bloom. You need to go like in November, December, January, where it's dreary and dark and rainy and cold.
Yeah, a lot of us have a mind, think it's a certain way to live somewhere else. It's so much luxurious. Is that the word?
Because
But it really isn't. Even Florida, South Florida, people think, oh my God, it's always this. You're going to get your ass kicked by the heat. I'm just saying. Yeah, so you may consider, if you don't like heat, go to Jacksonville. Just saying. But if you like the deep heat, then you go South Florida.
Anyway.
You can even go to parts of Georgia if you want. But really do your research regarding that. And it's funny you brought up your kids because I thought they would love Orlando, Florida when they moved here because I grew up really in Florida.
Yeah.
I used to spend my summers here, and I was coming here from 5 years old, but I was consistent from 15 years till now. And Florida is nothing compared to back then. Florida was nothing compared to now, so I knew they'd have a blast, but I didn't know they'd love it as much as they did.
Yeah, because I didn't either.
I really didn't, but
they do.
Just in the last couple of years, it's hard to beat Orlando, Florida right now. If you like Disney, Universal, that lifestyle. If you don't like the tourism lifestyle, this is not the place for you. But if you love, there is something to do. They have some of the best theaters. I sound like I'm pitching Orlando, Florida, but
nah.
Anyways, all right, that was a pretty good subject, right?
Good subject.
It's not bad. I caught you off guard. We'll do one more today. I'm not going to tell you what that one is, obviously. Okay. So what are we at? We're at 21 minutes here. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Rich Celenza Show. WTF are you talking about?
With Ria.
With Ria this time. And I'm also, I have a program out called Mastering Self-Confidence. It's a program to help men find the woman or women of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce. But I also get into many other things: fashion, fitness, hygiene, grooming. What else? I got a YouTube channel, just my name. And then we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're all over the place, all right? All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Take care and safe travels.